progress without any form of stupidness. And in this way we must gain success. For when we move in, we all move as one body. No bickering between you and me. For our policy stands for racial equality. Now when a stranger spending a little time in this lovely isle, every day you see him, he always have a hearty smile. When his time is up to depart, he would say with pride in heart, I'll be back, you could bet your life. And if I can't come, I will send my wife. And then he'll tell you, he really wants her to come, to drink some rum and have plenty fun in this great island in the sun. For Trinidadian, as foreigners to recall, it doesn't matter whether big or small, or if you're rich or poor, friends, we cater for one and all. So all of them we're talking, they either drunk or they're steering mad, or maybe they're forgetting Mr. Universe belongs to Trinidad. And yet we have men of talent and skill, with high hopes of improving still. And if you think all this is a lie, they might. So those stories are told, which is written to touch your soul. So Trinidad, this lovely land of mango, small but overwhelming gold. And as you know, Carnival is the greatest frolic on earth. Trinidad is my land, and of it I am proud and glad. But I can't understand why some people just talk it bad. But I know all of them we running them out. Don't know where they're talking about. They will paint you black every day, and the right things they would never say. Like our sportsmen being rated among the best. Our scholars have sit and passed every test, and put us right alongside the rest. But then our pitch lake is the greatest one of its kind. Our sugar and oil is really refined. So you see, friends, this is a real thing, so no man's mind. They just talk some nonsense, me ain't know where they're doing it for. About so much violence, man, you would swear that we fighting war. Of course, we have we delinquents to face.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web. I'm still a little lag tonight, but of course, the show has to go on, and we will, of course, do so. Let me say, of course, welcome, of course, and a Happy New Year to all and sundry. So I thought I should change the background a little bit in order, of course, to reflect that it's a new year, 2025. So, of course, we will have a bumper program for you as per usual. So, welcome. Let's see, of course, a patriotic song, because we are in a state of emergency, and unfortunately, we have a government that clearly has, of course, reached the zenith of the people's tolerance and, of course, their own ability to manage the affairs of the country. So it is clear, this is an election year, and we must, of course, reflect same, because, of course, we cannot wait to see the backs of the Rowley administration and, of course, himself. But let's go straight to the line one time. Let's go straight to the line.
If you're rich or poor, friends, we cater for one.
Let's put it right. Let me just take this
So
off.
all of them we talking. They either drunk or they steering man.
Just a minute. Good, right. Professor, good night. Welcome, of course, to the corridor transformation.
Yeah, Uncle, and a good night. Where are you going? Good?
Good night, yes, man. Yeah. How
Yeah.
things, and all the best to you and your family.
Yeah, man. Same to you, man.
All right.
I want to make a little contribution on the ground report this morning.
Yes, go ahead.
But I just you know I do marshal nobody grounds and thing. But
All right.
I don't know who is Mr. Barapo. But I
right.
want to let him know I is Mr. Sentence Isna.
Okay.
And what I referring to, right? It's difficult. The UNC can't win the seat up here. And there's the constituency I'm. Right?
Right.
So he must be in the comfort zone. You understand where he probably found on Barapo so that might fall on that Muruga table and them could must have the vote.
I hear you. I understand where you're coming from, but
right?
Go ahead, yes. Mm-hmm.
You understand? So I am making reference to how the government shut down the refinery.
Right.
And come back and win the 2 San Fernando seat and the 2.14 seat and the 0.14 seat. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you.
I don't know, madman. I know what I'm saying.
All right. Yeah, that's
those are serious.
Yeah, those are pollution facts. Yes, we can't shift from that. History is a stubborn thing,
so
and truth is a stubborn thing as well. Yeah.
I don't know what he talking about. You understand what I'm saying?
What was your interpretation? What was your interpretation of what he said? Because I may have missed it a bit, even though I was on the program.
He said no plan. He said no plan B and no plan D and no plan B.
Right. Usually, man, you said that there should be a plan B.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But let me tell you something.
Go ahead.
I like to say this without any fear or contradiction. You see, just like how it is stubborn Pianamites and them.
Yeah.
It have it in them too.
Right, okay.
I vote PNM already. Yes. I vote PNM already, and I vote UNC already. Right. I'm a level-headed person. You understand what I'm saying?
Good.
So, I know what I'm talking about. You understand? This is no.
So, what is your plan B? Since you didn't get a chance to, of course, express that on the ground report. Let's say it on the corridor.
The plan B is for to put up the account number, right? So people can sort of contribute to this account so that we could get certain things moving. They go have pre-action protocol thing to deal with. They go all kind of things to deal with. Because remember, we had to go through a democratic process.
Yeah.
You can't keep no uprising or them kind of thing.
Yeah, I seem to have recalled, and you will correct me if I'm wrong, that you also suggested that the team on the ground report should, of course, begin the process of contemplating of forming themselves into a political party. Am I right?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
All right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because let me show you something. All the rest are team players and them, right? All them talking strong. Even the former commissioner, although I hear you talking some kind of thing, understand?
Yes.
Everybody know what agenda in.
Right.
And if we do unite, we could end up 15 years with the people and them.
Right.
You understand?
And your proposal is to try to avoid that by having a plan B, should in case, of course, things go awry.
Yeah. So
out of an abundance of caution. Yeah. All right. Okay. I hear you.
Yeah. Okay. You understand? On that democracy and nothing. No uprising.
No revolution. No violent revolution. But
you understand? If it is not about revolution,
democratic process. Yes.
If it is about revolution. If it is about revolution, according to Mr. Amal, it's going to be a revolution of the mind.
Right.
You understand? That's the only kind of revolution.
But that is what I expect. I expect in this 2025 elections that there's a revolution of the mind, where the people are sufficiently accurate, they're sufficiently sensitized and they are sufficiently convinced, and therefore they will do the right thing.
And,
And as I said, I have revised my own prediction of 27 seats to 39 seats. So that's it, how confident I am, having regard, of course, to what is happening.
Okay.
But as you said, out of an
what-
abundance of caution, we should have a plan B, and I think that is where you are going. Yeah. All right. Okay.
You understand? I just talking based on from the constituency I in.
Yes.
Because
I hear you.
you're going on, and what I see that the ground, the youth and them have no interest in this.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And then we have the immigrant situation, and then we have problem with the EBC. I don't know if Mr. Barapa remember the extension of the last election. I don't know if you can remember that.
Yes.
And certain irregularities and certain things would never happen in history at Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, because Dr. Rowley has already telegraphed that he intends, of course, to engage in what I consider to be the undermining of the elections by indicating that only CARICOM observers should be here, when we believe that anybody willing and capable of course, coming and have an international reputation, such as the Carter Foundation, with whom, of course, I am in contact. I had some contact with them even tonight to see whether or not they can fit their own bill to come here in Trinidad. The government can't stop them. It's just that they may not have the authorization that institution would have gotten when it is authorized by the Prime Minister, but certainly nothing will prevent them from, of course, doing an observation outside of the, let's say, the liberty and the authority of the Prime Minister, because nobody could stop anyone from coming in, especially if they have an international reputation, to, of course, observe. But that will be a serious indictment on the government, because why it is that you don't want these people to be in, and the population that is going to the polls are skeptical about CARICOM. So we understand. All right.
But if I'm correct, if the Prime Minister have the full authority to request the international observers, right?
Yes, he is the man, as has always been so from time immemorial. But there's tradition or enshrined in the law, that has been the protocol, and for obvious reasons. After all, he's a Prime Minister. But and I tell you this, I tell you this from the perspective that it was Rowley in 2015 who, as opposition leader, wrote to CARICOM, wrote to the Commonwealth Secretariat, asking for their intervention, because he felt that the government then would have stolen the elections.
Oh.
Yeah. So you see, so that is why we are so strident, and that
I learned
we are
something
so
tonight.
we are so skeptical about his agenda. And apart from that, in 2015, of course, his name is, of course, in the court document stating that he interfered, of course, with the chairman of the EBC. And he's the one who recommended and suggested an extension of that 1 hour. Up to today, we don't know what the PNM has benefited from it. And then, of course, we had the situation.
Just the Police Service Commission.
Yeah, and then subsequently,
Just the Police Service.
we had the situation in 2020 when of course, he manufactured, or should I say, he orchestrated the non-presence of foreign observers, and then, of course, we saw a number of ballot paper and so on popping up in Arima and other parts of the country. And more than that, when my own investigation took place on that matter, we saw where Grand Bay, a toilet paper company, that this government, the Rowley administration, back in 2016 in their first budget, gave $5 million US to them to, of course, to assist them with keeping employees employed. But those ballot paper ended up in 2020, the ballot paper ended up in bales at, of course, the compound of Grand Bay. So you understand that there is sufficient evidence to show that Rowley is prepared, of course, to steal an election, to undermine, and if he is not so inclined, he should be opening up Trinidad and Tobago to every single internationally reputable organization that has a tradition of course, monitoring elections in every country. And since he is not of that view, it means, therefore, he has something nasty up his sleeve to try to get an unfair advantage. And that is where we are.
Well, well, to wrap it up and make it short, that is the traits of dictatorship.
Of course, of
You
course. Well, that is
understand?
what we are actually
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
That here it
But I
is.
learned something.
Yeah. You learned
I
something
learned something
tonight.
tonight. Yeah,
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So we are very, very
yeah,
particular. That's why we have taken a frontal approach to, of course,
yeah.
inviting the OAS, the United Nations, the department that monitors elections and all that, and we have been having conversation with them. I am responsible for that aspect of it as far as the ground report is concerned,
Wow.
and I'm certainly going to, of course,
Mm-hmm.
intensify my activities during the course of the coming months leading up to the
Well,
elections.
let me tell it. Let me tell it. Thanks for that initiative one time,
All right.
because I mean that is a real tall order. So I want to tell you thanks publicly one time.
Yes, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much. So you glean a
Yeah,
little more
man.
information now as to why this
Right.
skepticism, and we understood just as you that Rowley is not a fair playing person. He doesn't believe in leveling the playing field. He believes that he must get an unfair advantage, and of course, his monumental intervention, or should I say, the sympathy that the EBC has for him. We saw that, of course, fervently expressed, conspicuously expressed when he made an intervention to add the 3 seats to the Tobago House of Assembly, and then the EBC went and, of course, divided up PNM popular seats in Tobago. But, of course, the people, just like in Trinidad, we expect, decided, well, listen, this kind of thieving, this kind of political manipulating and gerrymandering must no longer exist, and therefore the PNM lost devastatingly 14-1 in Tobago. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I don't call it fun. Thanks for somebody else
Yes,
make
man.
the contribution.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
thank you
man.
for giving me the opportunity, of course, to explain that, because I'm sure it's not you alone, but of course, the wider listenership and the audience will certainly, if they didn't know before, they will now glean a lot of information. So it's not by accident, in other words. We have our skepticism, doubt, and have sufficient evidence and reason for, of course, saying that Dr. Rowley is not a Democrat. He is a very, should I say, uncanny individual that, of course, is extremely deceptive. And we know that, of course, as I've always said, he is the head of a criminal enterprise that now it is in government, wants to engage in what is called a auto coup. That is a government or a party in government utilizing the resources of the state in order to stay in office. That is what Rowley is all about. We are convinced and satisfied, and by his conduct. You see, a true prime minister will say, all right, the opposition is concerned about of CARICOM. Well, then I will invite those reputable institutions such as the Carter Foundation, etc., in order to come in. But he ain't saying that. He said only them. And that in itself tells me that, of course, he wants to steal the election. He has plans to steal the election under the gaze of just those who he can manipulate. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Happy New Year, Lennox.
Same to you, my friend. I think I extended that to all. And, of course, you'll see the background suggesting, of course, Happy New Year to all. Go ahead.
Right. There's a couple of issues. First, I want to say condolences to that attorney who lost his life within walking distance of Balize House, right?
Yes, yes, boy.
People must
very good point. Within walking distance of Balize House. Yes, Stanmore is in fact
So
walking
people
distance
have
from
to-
Balize House. Yes, yes.
have to see the nexus between crime and Balize House.
Yes, yes, yes.
I mean to say, and they haven't been able to put us at ease.
Yeah.
Look at what happened in Besser Street. They haven't put us to ease because I suspect the cameras, and they don't want to say, is not functioning. That is why you cannot have a rapid response of the police.
Wow.
They are lacking intelligence, and I differentiate our police to basically static policing as opposed to the ILP, not the political party, meaning the ILP is intelligence, led policing.
Yes, yes.
All right, no. I want to use that cap to identify something with that attack on that attorney, and I will say it hit. And I don't believe it has anything to do with gangs. You know why? When a gang man go for you, like they went down in Besser Street, what they do? And they spray bullets?
Yes.
No, this man was the only one that was felled by the bullets.
Yes.
His family was left unhurt. So that tells me the people who were shooting were skilled shooters. And where we will get skilled shooters? Not in the national security environment.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I hear you. Go ahead,
Right.
go ahead.
So,
I understand where you're coming from. Go ahead, yes.
Look at the evidence we have. A black SUV, right? You remember they take away all the gears of the tactical units. So they give us the impression, hey, they curb imitation police.
Mm-hmm.
The gears is only one thing. The person who was doing it still around. You understand? They shut down the SSA, right? They didn't call no state of emergency. No. Stopping. What is possible say? High-powered rifle, and they wanted to prevent reprisal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have been the victim of reprisal? Not gang members?
Yes.
So the SOE is to protect gang members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, well done in terms of your analysis, because of course obviously he's not a gang member. He was not a gang member,
Right,
but of
yes.
course he was prosecuting
Right.
a gang member, and
But what
so
yes.
yes.
What I'm saying, the main intention of the agenda, they say they wanted to prevent reprisal, and he got shot. I mean to say, look at the two incidents. If they say they had intelligence to get KCR, and KCR is so bright, you would have asked them to show me the intelligence, show me what all they have, where to go. He just only, because remember, they say based on the intelligence of the police.
Yes.
But the police had the intelligence to tell them, hey, that man is attacked, that attorney is targeted. Did they have the intelligence right in front of a police station, the van, to say, hey, them fellas planning something? That is why I say the static police. They don't have a clue as to what's going on. And let me come to your cousin, Earla Christopher, the Commissioner of Police. She's an embarrassment. Because if you saw the press conference, there were 4 people.
Uh-huh.
You had a mirror image of her, who is DCP Benjamin, and all you should understand why I mean a mirror image. Incompetency, oh boy. And then you had Sergeant Ali, and then you had somebody from the Defense Force. The only person who had some substance to that press conference was Sergeant Ali. I mean to say the rest of the leadership of the police was pathetic. She appears, she has no numeracy skills, no language skills, no comprehension. The way she read and tried to present it to a listening public who go and leave much to be desired. So as Senior Attorney Lala say, is to immediately get her out to basically, if they want to be successful. No. The day of policing, what was their main function and what was their attribute? Not roadblocks?
Yes.
So you put
that was the methodology that was used.
I think you only get 4 guns and they give her 5 tickets. So
Yes.
to them, that is a success. And it's the same people who do the policing, it's the same people at the executive. So they have appears and they fool KCR that they have a competency in that. So they can't fool me with that.
Yeah.
I see every day.
But I'm glad that you mentioned the day of policing, because the person the person who was charged for sedition, Seals, he ended up being, of course, a candidate for the PNM in
Right.
that contested that girl seat, who won the PNM. Sorry, the UNC won, Talking about Tabakit, yes, Tabakit.
Tabakit.
Yes, but mind you, I saw him twice being a temporary senator, and I think his chairman is connected to one of the state agencies. I know that former acting commissioner Philbert is chairman of the airport authority, but he got another post as well. So it tells me that quite apart from quite apart from the emails that in itself I would consider to be treasonous. You had, of course, the use of the police service by PNM operatives within, of course, the police service, wielding influence, because that is how he could only have been a candidate for the PNM. He had to be undercover PNM. And we see, of course, the manipulation of the system, and that is why we speak about a auto coup, where the party is using, of course, state apparatus to stay in office, utilizing these people who are prepared to compromise not only their own integrity, but the integrity of the institution that is supposed to safeguard and protect all of us. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, and the other thing is, therefore, you remember the head of Muslimi, the PNM was screening them to be MPs for Port au Prince, so I remember.
Yes, of course, and Dr. Rowley flatly rejected that notion. He said the fellow was on his own. But I don't think he's a mad guy. There must be some fire inside of there, even though, of course, he letting go smoke.
Right, and the other thing that I'll quickly end now.
Yes.
Ayla saying she wants to lower the bar for prosecution. That is how she going to get success.
Lower the bar, you say, you know?
Yeah, that is what she says. She said too difficult.
But I wonder if she understood what she was saying, because, you know, many of them...
That is what I tell you. She
appear to be
language and comprehension
appear to be what they claim.
Right.
They are not. Yeah.
It could work. You know why it could work? But she have to do two things. She have to lobby the both political party, and she have to lobby the second division. And we have to do the same thing for the second division police, like Rowley did to the OWT. Try to castigate them. And this is what the new legislation must be. When there is wrongful prosecution, the policemen who did it, we take in money from their own pocket. The state must not pay for it. So you want to underclap? Okay, you take all our protection, you remove it. The state is a bully now; they can walk in and do anything. But at the same time, if you want to protect citizens, give them.
Caller, just hold on. I have another caller on the handset.
Right, yeah. So that's why I say, get your second division to agree to that legislation, because a couple of judges say that should happen here. Because frivolous police charges are gone.
Okay then. All right then. Thanks for your intervention, and of course, please, of course, you can call back to if you have further ideas. Professor, good night. Welcome. We lost that one. You probably couldn't stay long enough, of course, but very, 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 very interesting indeed. And today, of course, we had Gary Griffith on the ground report this morning, and I think the man made a. I don't want us to use the word fool, but I think he made himself clearly having opened his mouth. If a person knows that they are a fool, if they open their mouth, it means therefore they would have let's say eliminate all doubt. Well, I think all doubt was eliminated today. We are going to look at that a little later. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
A pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox, and all your listeners.
A pleasant good night to you as well, my friend.
And to share the live. And a very, very happy New Year. And a bright and prosperous, better life to come.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's not Gary Griffith, it's Gary Abudas, theologist.
Yes. Did I say Gary Griffith? Well, if I did, it was inadvertent. I meant Gary Aboud, yes. Okay, thanks very much for that correction.
Yes. So I would like to apologize and retract the name and apologize is by error of the tongue.
Yeah.
And it's no mean to defame.
slip, yes. A Freudian
Yeah.
slip, yes. Okay.
So, on behalf of the host of the Corridor Transformation, a disclaimer of a error, and we do apologize.
Yes.
So, no distribute to Mr. Gary Griffith. Is Gary Aboud.
All right, good. Thanks very much.
Yeah. So, disclaimer. I have to protect my program. I don't tell you.
Of course, and very appreciative here and well noted. Go ahead.
So I don't tell you, Mr. Uncle Lennox. I am brutal because here we're going on. 2025 is upon us.
Yes.
And my life and others of 1.3 million people is in the hanging out by a cobweb. Yeah, a string of the spider. Only the water is keeping it together. As the sun come out, it will collapse. So the PNM know that only water is keep a spider web strong. But here we're going on, the sun will rise. And here we're going on, I want to tell the listeners tonight, now is the time to reflect on our New Year's resolution is to remember Keith Rowley, the evil one, and in there. Because they come and they're choking the senior citizen pension and those who are to qualify for pension. I just want to ask the listeners, how much of them and who is listening silently, that when you apply for NIS after you work your duration and you make a 750 contribution, how much of them see how easy it is to get your NIS? So these are the things I want to put forward. And while we're going now, because we only have 5 months ordinary time, so if you call it in May month, it's August month is election. And if we go the full distance, it's December we will have an election. But seeing the model of this dictator, he worse than Xi Jinping. He had the people laughing, clapping, and saying, yay! So we have to know that Nicolas Maduro model will not work in this country because it's 22 they have. We have 19 and the 2 Tobago seat. It's jumping up in our non-band. So I would like to send this message to all the distractors and the PNM distractors who feel they're making sense. I would like to let all of you know that now is the time all have to come with more and dig deep and then we see, because all run out of things to say. Now all going back to the racial card. And all I will ask all you who does be on social media talking and trying to push the ethnicity amongst the 2 races. Jindal and the businessman who get the land. Who is that? An Indian man. Check the cabinet. See what you have inside it. In the cabinet is a East Indians. And you telling me a black party care for black people. All they only know how to talk from 2010 to 15. All they can't count more than that. After 15 comes 16. And see how better all the life is. And see what economic prosperity and upliftment. See what the true black man who suffer in this country along the East Indian brothers. Because it was never been told. But all they support a party for upliftment. And what all they get? Decimation. Check it in the PNM constituency. When people talk about it, it has hurt them. Why a leader must do the supporters that? And why a supporter, the supporters must go through those kind of hardship. And you telling me a land of plenty, it's empty now? Uncle Lennox, this is my format, and I will be keeping the eye on the EBC, and I will keep the front burner. The 10 million in their say, they give them, and EBC say they get it. I would like to know when the EBC will get the program finished, what I have to do. Have a good night. And we want foreign observers from Carter Foundation.
Yes, man. Yes, well, of course, I will be writing, or in fact, I am in the process of writing to the Ministry of Finance as to get clarity as to what transpired with respect to that monies that was supposed to be allocated to the EBC for that verification exercise of people where they live in, etc. That the money is alleged to have been, of course, needed for. So that is important. But let's go straight to the line because there are some very pertinent issues that I want to address as well. Of course, I will back it up with the usual, what I consider to be video, audio, proof instantaneously. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello.
Good night. Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Lennox.
Yes. Good night to you.
Oh, good night. Happy New Year.
Same to you, my friend, and you and yours. To you and yours.
Yeah, I'm calling from Tobago.
Oh yes. Go ahead, Tobago.
I am giving you a piece of synopsis from my conscience. I took my personal conscience.
I hear you, my friend. Go ahead. You're in the right place.
My conscience allegedly told me, right, as we speak, the gas being transported from Petrochim to Venezuela as we speak, because what? I could remember they mentioned it cost the $100 and something million to run some line, pipe gas plant line. And I know when these people is talking this type of thing is when thing already done. You understand?
Yes.
So if your players and your supporters, let them look into it and know they will come up with something sensitive about it. I tell them when my conscience will mislead me,
okay,
guide me most of the time. But as we speak, yes, gas being connected and that the gas is pumping back to Trinidad. We'll buy. You understand?
All right. I'll find a way to see if we can do the appropriate investigative work to confirm what they are. Okay. Right? Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes.
Have a good night. Yeah.
Yes, same to you, my friend. Same to you, my friend. Of course, but just in case, a note from Tobago, Fali said, of course, the new year will see the THA, of course, pursuing internal self-government as they see it, and not in the way that the government has proposed, and of course, attempt, of course, to criticize because the opposition did not support. Well, if the Tobago people and in this case, their representative, their legal representative, their bona fide representative, the elected representative, is not in agreement, why must the UNC, of course, go to the contrary and impose on them that which they are not in agreement? It's a good thing, of course, that you have a very powerful opposition, because those kinds of legislation needs a 3/5 or 2/3 majority, and therefore, of course, they were able to defeat that measure that Rowley, he being a Tobagonian, one would have expected that he would have given them as much liberty as possible, but this man is about control, and of course, I say control from the perspective that wasn't it he incidentally that said in 2020 that he is not the kind of person that would leave government or leave public office with his feet first, meaning that in a coffin. How come he is so strident to stay there 5 years after, and speaking as though, well, he intends, of course, to not stay for the next 5 years, but to make certain that, of course, he's at the helm of things, so much so that even though, of course, the party which he heads cannot have internal elections, it been postponed, and there are internecine, of course, should I say, convolutions inside of the party, almost to the point of imploding. He is there, as we saw, of course, with the implementation of an SOE. We will deal with that momentarily. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night to welcome to the corridor.
Hello, good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you, my friend.
Yeah, first time caller.
Oh, welcome, my friend. Where are you calling from?
From Tobago.
Tobago. Go ahead, Tobago.
Yeah. I was listening to the program this morning.
Yes.
And you spoke something. I wanted to this morning, but I think this morning, and you spoke about the HSF.
Yes, the HSF. Yes,
right.
Yes.
Okay, and I think it said it was about 5 billion or something.
Yeah, five. Of course, depend on who you speak to, because government is saying is now six, about
Okay, right.
yeah,
My,
billion
my,
US, yes.
what I want to interject, I'm certain that you remember the time when that same HSF was about $62 billion.
No, it was never that high.
Okay.
No, never,
Okay,
never
not
that high.
52, but
No,
no,
it was
no,
always in
my
the single
mistake.
digits, always single
Yeah,
digits
single
since
digit, yes.
its
But
inception. Yeah.
but it was much higher than that.
All right.
I'm talking about many years ago.
That
Because
had to
when
be
I was
under Pandey, because remember it was Pandey who introduced it,
right.
and then of course Manning of course
Okay.
finalized the appellation or the name
Okay, okay.
HSF, yeah, and divided into two.
But,
Go ahead.
well, but it was much higher. It was much higher than the present thing.
No.
My question is it. What is the HSF really used for?
Oh, great question. Many people may not know, but HSF, Heritage and Stabilization Fund.
Right.
So it has two functions. It
Okay.
has a heritage, meaning that a part of it will be left for future generations. So that is not to be
Right.
touched for future
Okay.
generations. And then
Right.
stabilization, in case there is a shortfall in the budget that they would have
Okay.
allocated, then they could, of course, deal with the stabilization part to stabilize the economy. That is the reason for the Heritage and Stabilization Fund in short measure. I don't know if you want more explanation than that.
Yeah, okay, no, I could just continue anyway, right? Okay. And how is that money accrued?
Oh, yeah, beautiful question again. It comes, well, initially under Pandey, and I think subsequently under Manning, there's a certain sum of money. You call it the capital, right? And then, of course, what happens at a body of experts are now, of course, mandated to invest in foreign markets, and it
Right,
generates the
right,
interest. Yeah,
definitely.
interest from it is generated,
Right.
and that is how it makes its money. Yeah.
Right. I'm happy that you said that.
Yes.
And if that is the case, Mr. Lennox, what are the regulatory, clause or whatever, pertaining to that fund that could have some kind of control over whichever government is in office as to how they, disburse or invest the HSF?
All right. Well, there is that act that governs it, but in practice, as I said, if the budget is shortfall, take for instance, if they underestimate the price of a barrel of oil,
Okay.
then of course the stabilization part is triggered. But after a year or so, I believe, what this government has been doing is overestimating a barrel of oil so that they could get
Definitely.
into the stabilization fund. That's what has happened. That is how they
And that
managed
is
to get
the-
into it over the years. What they do, if the projection is, let's say, $10 a barrel, they will
Right.
project for, let's say, $20 a barrel. So you're sure to get a shortfall. You understand? Because it's only maybe the barrel of oil for that particular year might just be about $5 or $6. So it means that you're way above,
Definitely.
and therefore you can now,
Definitely.
of course, enter the fund in that way. That is what this government has been doing. Yeah.
And Mr. Lennox, thanks for having the conversation, because this is what I really wanted to come out, because I don't think the government, before, just as you say, they could give misinformation according to the price,
Yeah, they can manipulate the whole thing in order
Yeah.
to get to the fund. Yes, that is what they have done. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. And I think I should add, I should add this as well, that that dipping into the fund in itself is a danger to Trinidad and Tobago. You see, Norway has probably the biggest fund. I think Saudi Arabia and Kuwait has another big fund similar to it. Generally, it is called the sovereign fund, meaning that owned by the country for, of course, days when things are lean and things may be difficult. So this government dip into the fund as soon as they came into office, literally. But what that tells people who they're going to borrow from is that Trinidad and Tobago's economy is in trouble. Because why you have to dip into a fund that is supposed to be there for future generations, you see, and therefore Moody and those other what I consider credit rating agencies have been downgrading Trinidad and Tobago. So we have to pay more for borrowing on the international and multilateral markets to get loans. But let's go to the line. Professor, good night. Welcome. Hello? Professor, good night.
Mr. Lennox, boy, what I can say again is that, when you have people
yes,
who misusing your funds, and nobody is saying nothing, because I stop and I just studying, boy, how that $55 million that was supposed to be money paid for the DPP office.
Well, yeah, boy. Well, that is a monumental waste, boy.
You tell me this thing, boy. I say, boy, like, this place is not really a real place, boy. And we had this man just doing nothing, telling me nothing.
And blaming the DPP, for the spending of that money, because they occupy the office, because he decided to set up an office for the DPP, clearly with a friend, a person who they know, give them that money just so. And the DPP weren't involved in terms of the final say. And then they realized because they are exposed, because I know the building well. It is on Park Street, very close, of course, to what is called Bat Street. And that is a hill. And on that hill, there are also the Bat Street apartments, which rise for about 4 or 5 apartments, floors high. Let me put it that way. So on top of there, you could if you have the rifles of which they speak, you could stay from there and shoot somebody in the DPP office in that building, and the building is glass.
Right.
Yes.
When you look at it again, right?
Yes.
Do you remember when the Manzana Road had cut away, right?
Right.
And Sinaran go and he spent approximately $15 to $20 million.
Yeah. And
just only backfill it with what is scraped out from the road,
Yeah, because
within a month time the whole thing mash up,
Yeah, and partly because they closed down the oil refinery that doesn't produce any bitumen locally, so they have to import. So they shoot themselves in the foot. The so-called Cobra effect. I'll explain that later, but go ahead.
Right. Another thing, do you remember when the PNM came into office? The first thing they do, they give the union with the OWTO $15 million. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think it's 14. And in that same year, they gave, of course, the company that found, on whose compound they found ballot papers and so on in the 2020, after the 2020 general election. The company is called Grand Bay Toilet Paper Company. So they gave both the trade union movement as well as Grand Bay. Grand Bay get 5 million, and of course the OWT get 14 million. Yeah, 14. The OWT and the trade union movement. I don't want to say OWT per se, but really and truly it was led by OWTU, because OWTU was the one that led the pulling of effigies and mannequins of Kamala all over the place. Yeah. We know the nexus. So go ahead, my friend.
Right. Do you remember again that they started buy some old pictures from England?
The Casabon painting. At the time when Rowley told us that, of course, he continues to be contradictory. He said that, of course, our reserve is not so insignificant, meaning that we have a significant reserve. But he still tell us to belt tighten because it's difficult time, because that is the the country running on fume scenario he wanted to project, and then went and buy these paintings for over $3 million. Go ahead. Very good. Perspective. Go ahead. Yes.
We going
caller,
again,
hold on.
right?
I have another caller.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, caller. Yes.
Yeah. When you check in COVID, right?
Yes.
When they come down in COVID and they get money from the Latin American bank, they get money from the American,
among others.
They
yes.
They get billions of dollars, right? And then at the end of the day, he come and he tell you he couldn't fix no pothole in the roads because that wasn't first priority. You can remember that, Mr.
Yeah. He was busy, of course, saving lives. when he told us, that listen, Trinidad and Tobago is number one. Don't wear masks. You don't necessarily have to adhere to, of course, a social gathering and all of that hogwash. And eventually, not only over 5,000 persons died from COVID.
You understand?
One of the worst in the world. But not only that, but of course, it culminated in a state of emergency.
Definitely.
Yeah, and telling us that he was busy saving lives. I mean, these fellows are pathetic to the core.
Okay, we going again.
Go ahead.
Remember, when these 4 men die in the pipeline, right?
Yes.
I was saying that it will have a police investigation, because I know when people die in the home, the police has had to come in and get a DMA to order the removal of the body and all these kind of things, right?
Yes.
And when these men die in the pipeline, I say it will have a police investigation, because you don't know if it's some reason or the other that somebody had something with one out of this guy and allow them to die without sending any rescue. I mean to say some kind of investigation from the police should take place that to know it wasn't a homicide or homicides.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Right? They could use that opportunity. Right? And then when you do hear the crime, over 15 point something million for the investigation. Plus Mr. Peterson get out 9 million from Paria. And the family now even get a cent yet.
Yeah. But of course there was an argument, there was a haggling as to the cost. So let's be clear. The inquiry cost 15 million, not 50 or anything of that nature.
No, I said 15.
It's one of the cheapest.
15.5.
Yeah.
Or 15.8 or something like that.
Okay, good. All right. So be clear.
Not 15. 15.
We are 1.5. Yes.
So what I'm saying, I'm saying the amount of money is being spent all over the country, and yet the country in dire state.
Yeah.
We have nothing going here, Mr. Lennox.
And the people
nothing
themselves.
It's not only crime,
Yeah, the people themselves who were mourning and of course were traumatized by that event. The families, the government and the Prime Minister saying there is no provision for that, and they have to wait on insurance, and they are still waiting. You know, like the fellow who was expecting the monkey that was expecting monkey liver soup, or the alligator, as the case may be. Well, they are still waiting.
All right, but let me just sum it up before I go.
Go ahead.
And just because this Lisa Julian Morris, how she name?
Yes.
That died, her family get more money than the people who die in the pipeline. I just want you to understand that.
Yes, I wouldn't doubt that at all. Yes.
Right, but they're taking care of them.
Yeah.
Because the first thing he said, he handled all the burial. Did he handle the burial and the people who died in the pipeline? I don't know.
Former Minister Coffee and his ailment. They spent
with the million.
They spared no.
You understand?
They spared no resource in order to, of course, try to get him mended. Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Lennox, we are not in a good place.
Yeah.
And so long as this man here, I can't even wish you no Happy New Year, because we will get no Happy New Year so long as this man here.
I just wanted for traditional purposes. I will reciprocate, or I will initiate. That's all. But I know that we are not in a good place. All of us know that. And,
no.
he should have called an election rather than a state of emergency. But thanks for your intervention and all the best nonetheless.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. All right, let's go back. Let's go to the handheld set now. A pleasant good night to welcome.
Yeah, Lennox, me again. I'm going to take.
Oh yes, go ahead, my friend.
Again, quickly. Two things. The commissioner inquiry is 15 for the commissioners and them, 50 million plus the other 10, 12 million that the state organization paid. So it's 25 million and counting, eh?
I hear you. I just wanted to say what was the official one. According to them, This is how they say the Brand Lara only cost an additional 90 million, but we know it's much more than that. Just as they would hide the number of murders for the year 2024 as well. So we know the pattern of behavior, but we just want to we don't want them to tell us that, listen, we didn't say that and we didn't say that the other.
Right.
But at the same time, we have a duty to speculate as well. But go ahead.
Let us talk about the 50 million the man have for entertainment.
Yes.
Was he in Trinidad today for the ex-junior minister funeral?
Yes.
All right. He came back from Tobago to attend that. You know where he's having his press conference, media press conference tomorrow? In Tobago.
In Tobago, yeah, because they said they're having this retreat, but we know it's about
right.
At the same time using state funds to, of course, screen.
Go back to Tobago.
The two Tobago seats. Yeah.
And I believe Akash Samaru have been running.
Well, yeah. He can't face.
Question, so
let's say a downgraded version of Robert Amaro.
So nobody go ask him a question. He's hiding. I mean, the memes of him under the table and in the television.
And they will see that as racial, because Prakash is an Indian, so they will say.
Right, but he has shown his testicular fortitude with respect to his peers, his other people who just get questions asked wrongly. But Akash is a brilliant person, intelligent. He formulated his own questions, and if they blank him in the press media, he will have it outside in the newscast.
Yes.
I had to tell Akash, boy, be very careful with that media house you are there, because they are the genuine mouthpiece of the PNM. I'm going to have a nice night.
Thank you very much. Glad you mentioned that, because we had, of course, as I say, Gary Aboud on the program today. Of course, we will deal with that on the last part of this program. But let me go straight, of course, to the concern that I want to firstly express, and that is, of course, the state of emergency and the fact that I've mentioned already that in the Caribbean, we have, of course, coming out of St. Vincent, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, Jamaica, and so on, people expressing their concern, including Barbados, as to what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago and the state of emergency. Well, of course, I want to tell you tonight as well that it has made international news as well. And, of course, I want to, of course, start the ball rolling with this clip coming from one of the international agencies, talking about news agencies, that is very extremely popular.
Our next story is from the Caribbean, from the twin island nation of Trinidad and Tobago. The country has declared a state of emergency. The military has been mobilized. They will act as a secondary police force. Security forces have been given additional powers. They will be allowed to conduct searches without a warrant. They can detain suspects without charge and deny them bail. It's a full-scale crackdown. And the reason is a surge in gang violence. Our next report has the details.
Certain criminal gangs, and I will leave out the places where at this stage, but I can say throughout Trinidad and possibly Tobago, are likely to immediately increase their brazen acts of violence in reprisal shootings on a scale so extensive that it threatens persons and will endanger public safety.
Let's start all over.
Our next story is from the Caribbean, from the twin island nation of Trinidad and Tobago. The country has declared a state of emergency. The military has been mobilized. They will act as a secondary police force. Security forces have been given additional powers. They will be allowed to conduct searches without a warrant. They can detain suspects without charge and deny them bail. It's a full-scale crackdown. And the reason is a surge in gang violence. Our next report has the details.
Certain criminal gangs, and I will leave out the places where at this stage, but I can say throughout Trinidad and possibly Tobago, are likely to immediately increase their brazen acts of violence in reprisal shootings on a scale so extensive that it threatens persons and will endanger public safety.
An assassination attempt, a retaliatory shootout, and 6 people killed. It was a weekend of gang violence in Trinidad and Tobago, and it has led to the authorities declaring a state of emergency. It began on Saturday. A known gang leader was leaving a police station in the capital, Port of Spain. His identity has not been made public. While he was leaving the police station, there was an attempt on his life. The gang leader managed to survive, but one of his crew members was killed. On Sunday, there was a reprisal. 5 people were gunned down inside a shop. These incidents have the potential to start off a vicious cycle of killings. That is why Trinidad and Tobago's government has declared an emergency.
At this stage, the government has taken the decision there is not going to be any curfew. That decision is because the targeting of this national public state of emergency is on those who engage in criminal activity with criminal intent.
Trinidad and Tobago's military has been deployed. The police have been given enhanced powers. They can search people and property without a warrant. They can detain someone for 2 days on suspicion alone. The suspects can also be denied bail. All of this isn't just a result of this weekend's events. Trinidad and Tobago is a hotspot for gang violence and murder. The Caribbean nation has one of the highest murder rates in the world. It has only about 1.5 million residents, but this year the official homicide count hit 623. It's the worst on record. This alarming figure was part of the reason for the emergency declaration. How did things get so bad in Trinidad and Tobago? The simple answer is drugs. The country is located right off the coast of Venezuela. It makes it a transit point for Venezuelan drugs, which then make their way to either the US or Europe. Gangs in Trinidad and Tobago serve as the middlemen. Where are they getting these weapons? Mostly the US. The US Government Accountability Office published a report this year. It analyzed about 7,500 guns that were confiscated in the Caribbean. Around 73% of them originated in the US. These American weapons are fueling gang violence in Trinidad and Tobago and other nations as well. Most infamously, Haiti, which is also overrun with gangs. The US is the world's biggest market for drugs. The US's insatiable appetite for cocaine and other drugs has wreaked havoc in the Caribbean, and this emergency in Trinidad and Tobago is a direct result of it. This isn't the first time the country has had to impose an emergency to combat gang violence. They did so in 2011 as well. Let's see how long this latest emergency lasts, and if it can really bring Trinidad and Tobago's gang violence problem under control.
Yes, people, of course, that is, of course, the international news with respect to that. Remember, a couple of days ago, I spoke of the regional. What is the implication? This morning, of course, and on the ground report, and of course, I have been talking about that prior to the implementation of this SOE. It's a question of advisories against Trinidad and Tobago, because I am saying all of this as a foundation to a very specific point that, of course, was advanced by the acting Attorney General Stuart Young in declaring, of course, a state of emergency. And you will determine whether or not it is reckless, whether or not it is foolhardy, whether or not it defeats the purpose for which they have claimed the reason and the outcome. But let's get to some of the variables of which I am concerned. Now, We said that the advisories against Trinidad and Tobago are really notices to the citizens of countries that are either, of course, potential investors or they may be tourists. We already spoke of the tourist boat that was docked in Port of Spain and the captain told them don't come off. It means, therefore, that those persons that were drooling for a bumper or, let's say, a windfall in terms of taxis, delivering or making tours with these tourists in and out of Port of Spain. In addition, of course, to tourist guides that would, of course, from time to time, I know that our favorite stop is Round the Savannah, the Magnificent Seven, etc. And then, of course, because they will have to have a limited time, because they're not going to hotels, but they are on the ship, and they would want, of course, these cruise liner, let's say, participants or should I say customers. So that has been affected. And then, of course, you have this situation as well where just the news alone would have made and did make all these countries upgrade their advisory against Trinidad and Tobago, telling their citizens, don't come to Trinidad, quite apart from the fact that if you come to Trinidad, but there is a state of emergency, one, and two, of course, don't go to places like Laventille and around the Savannah, etc. Yes, Nelson Street, not too far from here. All of that, they would tell them, that has been upgraded. You see, I'm saying so against the background that the minister who made the announcement told us that they're trying not to interfere with business. Oh gosh. So they couldn't think a problem that the Gang Act could have solved. Why you want to further deteriorate the circumstances of Trinidad and Tobago by those asinine statements, knee-jerk response? And I could only conclude that they didn't want the number to reach 700, and that is why they implemented that state of emergency. That picked up state of emergency. We will deal more of it after, of course, this call. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah. All right. God bless all the boys. God bless all the boys.
Thank you.
And I hope everything good with all you, so that we would be able to hear all you for this new year coming. And one thing I want to see, what this government doing in the SOE with the army and the police force. Griffith without army and without SOE, Griffith could have do that in 1 month. If this government so wanted to protect the people in Trinidad and Tobago, all the people open all your eyes, he was not going to fire Griffith. He would have keep Griffith there to have the country clean. This man is not studying the people in Trinidad and Tobago. He's protecting one gang not to kill the other gang. That is one. Two is, this minister was there. They've been trying to help people in Trinidad and Tobago. 4 children dead. 4 people in Arena. 4 children were shot sleeping. And they did nothing to help that poor family. Nothing. These people remain without any children.
Yes. Akola talked about it earlier. Yes, you're quite right. Yes.
And
yes.
Nobody cried. I cry out my life. These people remain without any children, and they're not rich people. Government help nothing at all. Nothing at all. 4 divers. Government help nothing at all. So really, who they helping? They helping the real high society people. They helping the ministers which is
Including
high
themselves,
society.
yeah, that's right. Yes, yes. Self-serving.
This government is not for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And bring SOE to show people that they're doing something to help crime situation in this country. They're helping the businessmen. The businessmen. Yeah, businessmen, the same businessmen say SOE wouldn't help. The same businessmen come and prison them. You hear? They are doing nothing to help our people, and they're doing nothing to help this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And as if to, but let me say it another way. To confirm what Granny is saying, I want to show you the level of arrogance and contempt for the people and their security, for which the government has a singular responsibility, but have abdicated their responsibility even in the announcement of that state of emergency by having what I consider to be an underling or two underlings. I'm talking about this fella called Stuart Young, a total moron, and of course an narcoleptic fella called Hines, total indolent, lazy like hell, and of course incompetent. But listen to what the opposition had asked Rowley, because this woman is saying, and of course there is the consensus that if Gary Griffith was still the Commissioner of Police, maybe that situation, having regard of course to his aggressiveness, his forthright approach to policing, calling of course the very elements that they now have to confess are cockroaches and rats and dogs and so on. They have to now of course take draconian measures to not eradicate, but to extract them and to of course have them under control. That is the conclusion I have to draw. But listen to Rowley, when of course in his arrogant state, a total ignoramus, a total, what I consider to be a person out of his depth, doesn't know what he's talking about, try to of course usurp the office of the Commissioner of Police by saying that he will get, in the DSS matter, the Jogsusu matter, he will get of course utilizing his office and our money to get detectives from Barbados and of course the UK to investigate that, and say that $22 million is a threat to of course the financial system in the country. That man is a total backside. That man is asinine to the core. That man is toxic and evil to the unlimited degree, and therefore ought not to have been a prime minister in the first place. But let's go to the lines before of course I play that inquiry or that interrogation from the opposition in the person of course Charles, the representative for Naparima. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night, welcome.
Yes, man. Good night, good night. Happy New Year to everybody.
Same to you, my friend, in this circumstance.
This is Silver Fox here.
Yes, man.
Now, I'm listening to the program, and
yes,
we have to get to the root of what is really happening, right?
Yes.
If you are running the country, Trinidad and Tobago, a small island, and
yes,
if you are running it in the way of evil, blood has to flow. Because Satan needs that blood. It has to flow. Don't care what you do, it has to flow. You see, what we have to understand, that it has darkness and it has light. And some people go to the darkness because they want to stay in power. When this man went to this African place, and you see they spin him 3 times, and one time he sit down, they spin him again, and he sit down and they spin him again. These things have meaning. Just as how shake hands have meaning. That's why I don't shake people's hand. Because you don't know what you're shaking about. Right? And we have to learn this world full of science. And some people could exploit it and some people cannot. This place needs help. This place needs these Baptist people to come back out on the street and start to keep prayers. They need to pull back this little island from the evil it is in right now. Because look at this state of emergency does not make sense.
The first thing they're supposed to do, intelligence they're supposed to gather that and target homes. Right? They're supposed to know where this is and that is. So when they call that, they go straight to the homes. You don't keep roadblock and all them thing in these kind of things. You're supposed to know where you are going, who you're going for, and the sort of people you're going for. You're supposed to have direct information. You're not moving on vapsy. And this is the whole thing. This place is in a mess. Trinidad and Tobago is in a mess. We need to clear it up, and to clear it up, we need to move these people from power. We need to move Keith Christopher Rowley and his gangs from office. And it is time to do that, Trinidad and Tobago. What would take us? Look, we make international news. We are fools all over the world.
Yeah, boy.
Everybody's laughing at Trinidad and Tobago. We was once, you could have called us a little Dubai. Now is bye-bye. Trinidad and Tobago, the people, you need to wake up and wake up now. Don't tell me waking up in the morning, wake up now. It is time for us to get out there and stop this nonsense and get back our little island of Trinidad and Tobago and let who want to take us in a better place, Camilla Prasad, take us in a better place so we could be happy again. We could laugh again because we can't laugh right now. We could put our hands in our pocket and pull out a little dollar and spend. But we cannot do that now. Christmas, I watch at Christmas. And it was the deadest thing. I'm talking like that to be going on now. It was the deadest thing I ever meet. Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago. We need to stand up for our rights. We have rights too. And we are people. We are big people. Have children. Just guide our children. Let us guide ourselves out of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much. Let's go to that particular video that, of course, the opposition interrogated Rowley on at Prime Ministerial question time in the Parliament, and this was his response: arrogant, contempt, total empty vessel, making plenty noise, but going what I consider to be zero where or nowhere. Listen to this.
Question 9. Will the Prime Minister state whether he will consider the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffiths?
Let's go to the line. Of course, we always give way to the callers. So a pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Mr. Lennox, and Happy New Year to you, your family, and all the listeners. Ms. Val, same here.
Same to you, my friend.
And I want to say a pleasant good night and Happy New Year to our best woman, Miss Santa Cruz. And I wish you health and strength and prosperity to give me information and good words, you know?
Yes.
Right? The thing about it, Rowley didn't want Gary Griffith as Commissioner of Police because Gary Griffith detected the fake oil and that put him to jail.
I hear you.
Right? He would have put Rowley in jail when he figured out, when he gets through with the fake oil, it will remove him. Right? So that is why he said Gary Griffith. Right?
Yes.
That is why he want Gary Griffith as Commissioner of Police. Gary Griffith know everything about him and they would have put him in jail. But I want to tell you something again. They went all over the world for the COVID, right? And begged for money to put in their pocket, not for the country, not for the citizen. If you shake the 22 of them in the parliament and you empty them back to front, all the money falling out. You hear?
Yes.
So that is what happened. You hear? So that's why he said Gary Griffith, when Gary Griffith get the findings about the fake oil, he dismissed Gary Griffith.
Yes.
You hear? So I want to tell Ms. Santa Cruz Happy New Year and thank you for all your contribution you have given to me. You have get knowledge and sense and educated. Okay, I just want to say good night again. But again, that is why he unlike Gary Griffith. Gary Griffith find the truth about the fake oil. You hear? If you see him in the funeral today, as the funny service done, he fly out and he gone. If he fly out and he gone in the car and he gone. And you know who he left behind? The Minister of Education and the panty, she Stuart Young. I insist to
Yeah,
Stuart Young with him.
that's his handyman. His
They're not the handyman.
yeah,
They're not the handyman.
yeah, he handyman his briefs his suitcase carrier. You know,
Yes, that is suitcase, that is Pampers carrier. Because Stuart Young say that her Kamala's sister was the makeup bag, but he's the Pampers bag.
Yeah. Oh, you could call him all of that because he's a.
You could call him all of that, and you could call him small pin. You could call him Pampers wiper.
Yeah, he's
you could call him panty shield, everything.
Awkward, yeah, in all of the.
I tell you, if you know how that Stuart Young looks so dotish,
Yeah, he's awkward.
Mr. Lennox,
he's an embarrassment.
Mr. Lennox, I used to live in Westmoreland, and I watched he and Angus walking. They were like two old dogs. Nobody fought on them.
Yeah, that's
and
the
I could
only
tell you the
sidekick.
exact street.
The only sidekick.
You hear?
Yeah. He knows where all the skeletons are buried. Yeah.
First time I live in my 69 years this year, and I see a minister of energy have police escort too. And he taught in the oil.
It's a pile of jokers never see come see we. We have a saying in Lavantil, of course, he's a glad handler. That's how they song, glad handler. Rowley too.
But at the end of the day,
never get
Rowley
has
to put security for him.
Yeah.
You understand? You want nobody touch your baby, you know.
But I want to tell them what they meet them yet, and pass them yet. I want to tell them that. I say no more. Out of an abundance of caution. All right.
So I wish you all the best, and all the listeners, all the callers, and my baby, Miss Santa Cruz. I wish you all the best, health and strength, and give with you. You're very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. And of course, the caller made a lot of sense, and therefore, I had to put in my 2 pence as well, because Gary was non-conformist. He would not, of course, adhere to Rowley's behests or his instructions. He being Prime Minister, Gary understands the role of the commissioner, and I want to tell police officers that Gary displayed from the information we now have is what a typical police officer must be and do. You see, the classic definition of a police officer is an executive officer who must subscribe to the law, must do, who in law is obligated to do what he has to do. In other words, no boss man could tell you to go and do something that is wrong and you go and do it because, of course, he's a superintendent or inspector as the case may be. If you know it is wrong. So, of course, so that's the definition. A police officer is an executive officer who, in law, right, must do what he is legally required so to do. Let's go to the line. A pleasant good night to welcome. See, we have our Jamaican friend. A pleasant good night.
Yeah. Wagwan, man. Happy New Year to you and the YouTubers them again.
Same to you, my friend, even though it is not so happy at this time in Trinidad. But go ahead and see. Jamaica is making strides.
Yeah, man, I understand that.
Yes.
So let's talk about something that people have been asking for months, for years. We have a crime plan or we don't have a crime plan? That's the question. Let's talk about something what people have been asking for months and for a year.
Go ahead.
We have a crime plan. We have a crime plan or we don't have a crime plan? Because the see murders are going up in spite of coming down. And we see that you are now endorsed a state of emergency. So the question...
Oh boy, why it is that every time we have some breaking communication when you get into the crux of the matter. But let me answer. I'm sure that you are listening and you would get the information. Well, of course, this government is a government of convenience, a government of opportunism, a government of self-serving service, a government that clearly did not have a plan to manage the affairs of the country in totality. However, I use the term convenience because when they were in opposition before 2015, and unfortunately getting into government, they had a 10-point plan. And people don't get me vexed before I pull it up, you know. They had a 10-point plan for crime. And of course, in practice, we saw where Gary Griffith, as the Commissioner of Police, at least that one, told us that they want to give him $45 million to hang down opposition former ministers. That is what they are about. Understand. But go ahead, my friend. Kola, you had a hold on here. I have one from Jamaica that we have not yet completed this interview, or should I say communication. Go ahead, Jamaica. Go ahead.
So when they were in opposition, they seemed as if they had a strong strategy to act.
Yeah, and whilst in government, they say that they're not responsible for any plan. It comes from the Prime Minister. It comes from, of course, the Minister of National Security. They're not responsible for any plan. It's the police. Well, I don't understand that. How could you say, on the basis that you got into office, in your manifesto that you have a 10-point plan, and all of the so-called meetings when he was in opposition, he had tongue meetings all over the place, talking bombastically, authoritatively, and of course, solution-oriented. And when he's in government now, he abdicated and abandoned all of that and say it's not he, it's the police. And if it's not he or the police, it's the parents. And if it's not the parents, it's the children. And if not the children, it's the gangs. And if not the gangs, it's of course the church and the ecclesiastic class in the country. And we go on and on. Of course, the final one where he spent over $3 million is to bring, of course, regional heads here to look at crime as what, and that is their final position now, looking at crime as a medical problem. So I like to say, of course, laughably, that when a fella shoot at you, you find the nearest drugstore, the nearest pharmacy, and get some kind of medicine to prevent that bullet from hitting you so that you could lose your life or limb. That is the kind of dotishness that we have purporting to be Prime Minister and government in this country. That is what they are saying now. But yet still, you have a state of emergency. After, of course, 644 murders. 644, the highest ever. After had all them solutions and all them blames. So, my friend, if you are hearing me, I know that we got cut off, so I thought I should conclude there. But let's go to the line. Pleasant good night, welcome. Pleasant good night, welcome. Let me just make sure we have. Let me just make sure. Oh yeah, sorry about that. All right, good. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, caller. Mr. Jamaica is calling back now. Mr. Jamaica, you'll have to hold on. I have another person on the other line. Sorry about that. But go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
Pleasant good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you, my friend.
Compliments to the season.
Same to you.
We want a UNC 2005.
Oh yes, indeed.
We want a UNC government.
Yes.
Because there is no comparison. The UNC give me 14%, we only give me 4%, and he want how much? 30-something or 37% or 40-something percent.
We can't check that percent. Fuss it huge. But go ahead.
All right. Kamala called a state of emergency early in her tenure to save some lives.
That's
we
right.
only call it when it warrants close to election after 600 are already dead.
And after he said who dead and who live.
And who dead,
yeah.
Who live. All Dr. Rowley concerned about is his family, his friends, and his finances.
Yeah, abuse of office.
So that I was now speaking to 400 people, and I was explaining them that do not allow, or they don't take no more chance with all your future.
That's right.
Some are we old, some are we young, and we don't have no future under Dr. Rowley. Dr. Rowley and the PNM is a wicked party. If you're a PNM and you're listening to this program, understand that the leader that you have do not like Olia at all. He don't even like Olia as a convenience. So the only people that we have, or the only party that we have, which is the only choice, is Kamala Prasad Visesa and the United National Congress. Go back and do all your homework. Go back and watch when Kamala was there. Was only allegations, and they were spending money on the citizens. Kamala give us laptop, Rowley give we 4 trees to be always high, so we don't know what's going on in the country. Only come on. We try, Kamala try. She wasn't perfect.
You're lucky, and don't put it be on him. You're lucky he gave you 4 cues.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then we have a national failure minister of security telling we his work is not to make us feel safe. Well, then we're saying down on the tune for. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I want to make something categorically clear. They have 2 sides in town where they have 7 and they have 6. And they take somebody from the Beetham Gardens, which they had on them as 7, and that person who they take out from Beetham Gardens, he would prefer the Beetham people, which consider as 7. Right? So the rest, the people on the other side who is 6, the kind of young thing.
Yeah, no, 6 or 7, 9.
They're not supposed to support him because they're supposed to get somebody neutral in order. That's an all to show you that the PNM don't care if Monday fall tomorrow and if Sunday fall next week. I'm begging all you. Ask your partner. Your ID card working, your ID card up to dated, go and check it. Go and register to vote. People say Donald Trump would not have get a chance. And I have an American-born citizen son, and he said that Donald Trump will win the election because they see a better light under Trump. We see a better light under Kamala Prasad Visesa. Let us give us a chance. Let us give Trinidad a chance. Let us get rid of Dr. Rowley, investigate him, and bring him to justice with all the people who was performing this wrongdoing onto Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Lennox, I always thank you for this opportunity. I wish the people of Trinidad and Tobago the best, and I want them to understand that we want a UNC 2025 because we go get back proper galvanized on the roof. We go get back how much percentage on the food, which is the take away VAT off for the food.
We will do better. We must do
more
better.
than 7,000 items. Kamala Prasad might bring back a cow, so we would not have to buy milk. So Lennox, thanks for the opportunity. You have a blessed one.
Yes,
to all the listeners too.
Yes, my friend. Thank you. Of course, let's go back to Jamaica. My Jamaican colleague, sorry about that, but you know,
yeah, man, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Yes, earlier. But so go ahead.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
Yes.
The minister speak about the 10-point plan, but you have to look at it. Plannings require specific things. Now, policy is one which the minister is probably concerned with, or with the government broad policy framework. Planning means effective and specific issue in terms of policing. You have to have community policing. You have to have boots on the ground just to combat crime. You also have to have anti-gang social legislation to fight the crime. So planning of the 10 pillars strategy, it also means specific things, because when you look at the policy plan what the government have, the minister is more concerned.
Oh boy. All right. Yeah. Well, I think I get where you are coming from. Yes, but they are focused. They are mono-focused on how to hoodwink the population, and that is driven by wanting the want or the need to stay in office. So therefore, their policies are driven by a political agenda, and of course an avarice proclivity or tendency where the way the treasury get kicked back, of course, and we have to look at the Balize House to understand what we are talking about, because that is costing about $100 and counting $1 million. But Rowley said that in 2015 the PNM had no money, they were bankrupt, and suddenly, of course, you are constructing that monstrosity.
Yeah, but
steel,
in
etc.
terms of that, no.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead. Yes, I'm
Yeah,
hearing you now. I try to get you back.
In, yeah, man. In terms of that, he needs to have a global framework to ensure that he not only reduce acute problem of criminality today, but he.
Oh boy. Well, it is clear that they have lost it. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the framework is not different from what it requires for a specific planning.
Yeah.
So he has to look at both implementation of community policing. He has to put in anti-gang legislation just to combat crime, because I know that crime is on the rise over there. That it is almost that a state of emergency.
Yes. All right. Well, I want to tell you, he has all of that. He has anti-gang legislation. He has a treasure chest of money. Billions of dollars are spent every year on the security apparatus of the country. The whole question of even cameras, even though is of poor quality, but they have a network of cameras. They have, of course, recruited more police officers. They have, of course, have a joint military or soldier efforts in order, of course, to treat. I'm talking about patrols in order to treat, and then, of course, you have static patrols as well, where they have these units that are lodged in particular community, and in spite of all of that, they have failed. They have reached, of course, a record. I don't think any other government in the future, because we are talking futuristic now, because this is now history, except, of course, if they remain in office, the possibility that they could reach 700 is real. Because I am still of the view that the reason for this state of emergency is to try not to reach 700, which, of course, will be not just appalling, not just politically, what I consider to be devastating, even though, of course, at the present time it is. And, of course, they do it at the risk of saying that they will not, of course, call a state of emergency for crime because there's sufficient legislation. According to Rowley, and don't get me vexed before, of course, I play it. But the fact of the matter is that they have acknowledged that they have failed. And, of course, this lame duck government must be calling as not a state of emergency, but elections in order, of course, for the population to make a decision as to their stewardship across the board, not just, of course, on crime, the economy, agriculture, food imports, the manufacturing sector, our exports, the borders, foreign policy, and we can go on and on. So it is a multi-pronged need of the population, and there must be a response by the government if it is serious, but clearly it is not. It is about, in the midst of all of that, augmenting their salaries and their take-home and feathering their nest at our expense, at the people's expense, as taxpayers' expense. And you have the most lame duck and lame excuses that you could ever think of by big men who say they went to university to justify that travesty that is, of course, the Rowley administration and the arguments they make for, of course, the level of failure and the level of curse and decadence that is today Trinidad and Tobago under the Rowley administration. Let's continue, of course, with the interrogation by, of course, the representative for Naparima. I'm talking about Rodney Charles, asking the Prime Minister some very pertinent questions. All of us who are blessed to be Trinbagonians, but not satisfied and being proud, putting in question as far as Gary Griffith as a commissioner of police, not as a politician, as commissioner of police is concerned.
Request to meet with him as well as the tonight. Will the Prime Minister state whether he will consider the former Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith's request to meet with him as well as the opposition leader to discuss solutions to our raging crime crisis?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, as chairman of the National Security Council of Trinidad and Tobago,
listen to that response.
I have very good reasons not to meet with Gary Griffith under any circumstances.
And mind you, this man is so vindictive. He initiated an investigation here, purporting to be the National Security Council head, initiated an investigation about the issuance of gun license under Gary Griffith. Clearly, we know now he targeted Gary Griffith because Gary Griffith, to him, was too mannish. He did not want to stop the investigation of the fake oil. He did not, of course, take basket to utilize the $45 million to hung down opposition former MPs and ministers. And he told them in no uncertain terms that you're talking nonsense. Gary told Rowley he talking nonsense when he wanted him, of course, to go down Westmoreland and hold people who had some party in their private premises. And Gary said, well, listen, you don't know the law. I cannot enter. There's no provisions in the law for me to enter people's private compound in order, of course, to arrest people for gathering, even though it is, of course, COVID and the regulations said don't gather, but is in public place, not in private place. So Gary tell him all of that. So he decided now to find a way to get rid of Gary. And not only did he initiate an investigation of former police officers, clearly that is sympathetic to the PNM, because that is how they operate. They want to get something done, they bring in people who are sympathetic to them to get the outcome that they want, not anything objective. So, the results of that investigation, Gary Griffith said, all right, I had no opportunity to respond to whatever is in that conclusion, in that document that you initiated. And the court say, in no uncertain terms, not only does the Prime Minister have no authority to launch an investigation into the police, and the police have to launch an investigation into the blasted Prime Minister. Not the opposite way around, because he believed that the National Security Council is some arm of the police and superior, not the Police Service Commission, and even then it is limited only to the commissioner and the deputy commissioners. Had nothing to do with the rest of them. The commissioner of police has authority over the whole police service, and of course his boss, if you want to say, will be of course the Police Service Commission. So here what happened. Gary Griffith went to court. The people and them who Rowley hired gave the report. He wants, of course, to talk about it in public and in PNM meetings. But of course, the court said no, that report cannot be released in public. Cannot be released in public. And with didactic consideration in the parliament, block him from all of that. And he vexed too bad. So that is where he is talking. That is why he's talking how he's talking. That he have good reason to believe. Because a report that he initiate, an investigation he initiate, as a result of which a report came. And he's trying, of course, to bamboozle the public to say that he has good reasons. And mind you, when that wasn't enough, he went, of course, and intervened in the affairs of the independent, constitutionally independent and insulated Police Service Commission, who sent a short list, including Gary Griffith's name, to the president that was supposed to be forwarded to the parliament for consideration as to the next commissioner of police. But Rowley couldn't wait. Rowley went in there and intercepted the chairman of the commission, Bliss C. Prasad. I'm sure that she is not feeling blissful these days, or after that intervention. And she take back, of course, that shortlist from the president. And then, of course, the rest of the commission say, well, we don't know anything about that. And the entire commission had to resign as a consequence of that. The entire commission. But it got worse. The president, who is now implicated in a conspiracy that Rowley concocted just as the emails, the opposition with their 19 seats, and they therefore had the votes or the numbers to initiate impeachment against the president for her part and conduct in this matter, decided, of course, to initiate that and call, of course, the convening of both houses of parliament to discuss the president and her role in this matter. Guess what? It is clear. All that time Rowley was saying that using obfuscation and, of course, circumlocution and all kinds of innuendo and, of course, semantics, saying that he have a right as prime minister to discuss matters with the president and anybody else, and it is not for him to disclose those discussions. Well, it is common sense that the president took a turn in Rowley's tail and tell him, listen, obviously clear my name, clear my name from this nonsense, using my, of course, language and my interpretation of the matter. Why am I saying that? I am saying that because Rowley categorically, after he was denying whether he made any intervention, it then said, listen, it's me. So in other words, he has protected the president from any implication that she was part of a conspiracy to, of course, get rid of, as we know now, Gary Griffith from becoming, of course, the next commissioner of police, or being considered to be the next commissioner of police. That is what has transpired. So the opposition, of course, initiated, of course, the Speaker of the House being the presiding officer in such a joint session, decided that the whole process was flawed and that the opposition didn't do the right thing. But the objective was achieved. Rowley admitted that it was he who intervened. The entire commission resigned, and the president clearly got her name cleared by, of course, Rowley coming out and saying that I am the one, the senior officer, the senior government official. Kamala there was saying the senior government official. All the time he said it could mean anybody, or given the impression it could mean anybody. Well, it turned out that it was him. And it's not for the first time, Not for the first time. We saw him at work as well, with respect, of course, to the Vincent Nelson matter. We saw him at work as well with the Brent Thomas matters. And implicating, of course, in the case of the Vincent Nelson matter, Anand Ramlogan and Ramdeen. It's a good thing there are good people in the various ministries who saying enough is enough, and this thing stinks to low hell, and therefore gave the opposition the tool with which they could reach the public through the media. And as a result of that, Anand Ramlogan and Ramdeen were saved from, of course, criminal charges that were already instituted by under the behest or the instructions of the DPP. But the DPP had, of course, to, in the fullness of time, renege, or should I say rescind those charges. That is Rowley. Wicked and evil, rapist and pedophile. That is the man for you. So understand, let's continue, of course, with the quizzing of him in the parliament and his obfuscation, deliberate, conscious. His toxicity knows no limit.
as meeting with the opposition is concerned, I meet with them all the time in this chamber, in front of you, Madam Speaker, and they have obstructed every single attempt we had to fight crime in this country.
This is not the beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning of our action. But it is.
And clearly he forgot. He forgot that in opposition, he did everything. He invented, of course, or put another way, develop a square peg in round hole arguments. When he focused on the Rishmi affair, a storm in a teacup. When, of course, he talked about Section 34, nonsensical and nonchalant. Not as what is happening today, where Trinidad and Tobago is devastatingly reduced and emaciated as a consequence of the maladministration and devious conduct of this man and his government. Now you have a state of emergency after, of course, you reluctantly and, of course, deliberately did not do the right thing in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago, because you want everything evil. You want everything as a con job. You want everything as a conspiracy to look good and to promote, of course, an evil enterprise called the PNM, a criminal enterprise of which Rowley is the head as of a mafia nature. Mafia nature. That is the man. So I thought I should, let me just get a little piece again.
The beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime. The beginning of the end of the Kamla Prasad regime. We will not cooperate with government of Trinidad and Tobago
in opposition.
On any matter. We will isolate them for as long as they're in office until they leave office. Until they leave office.
Mr. Prime Minister, is it not abundantly clear to you that you have failed? Mr. Prime Minister, is it not abundantly clear to you that you have failed?
You call on the Prime Minister.
And months afterwards, the ending of the year, December, acknowledging that he has failed, call a state of emergency. That son of a gun. That son of a gun. Wicked, evil, toxic, the existential threat to Trinidad and Tobago is the Rowley administration, no doubt. And let me tell you something. He has a new record, another record he has added, but always something evil and pernicious. 2 states of emergency. 2 states of emergency in 9 years. 2 states of emergency. Always criticizing others. He criticized Kamala when she went up to the United States and with Obama, when Obama was president, and with the Jamaican Prime Minister, and of course signed off on the Convention for Anti-Terrorists across the globe, following, of course, 9/11. And Rowley stay here in Trinidad and Santa Cruz and say, listen, Kamala mustn't get involved in that. That is, of course, elephants, and we are grass, and Trinidad will get trampled. That's the kind of hogwash he talk. But his turn reached to stay out. He inserted himself when he was supposed, of course, to vote with the United States, so we get better relations with them against Maduro. He stayed on Maduro's side and continues so to do, and jeopardize Trinidad and Tobago's image regionally, hemispherically, and with our powerful neighbor, the United States. It doesn't matter what the rest of the Caribbean do. His job is to seek our interests, and he has failed in that regard. Whether it's the Lima vote, when of course he never sent any delegate, or OAS when they abstained, and he goes to United Nations and make a case for a man whose human rights record is so awful, is so obnoxious, is so egregious, is so devastating that over 47 million people migrated out of Venezuela. That by itself, any country that happens to, because it has happened, of course, to Ukraine, and one could understand that. Ukraine was not, of course, migration was not, of course, as a result of bad treatment or an evil regime. It was because of the invasion by, of course, the Russians. But in the case of Venezuela, the evil that Maduro has imposed on the people, and up to this day, Rowley has not said about Maduro that he is an infringer of fundamental human rights. So you understand that if he say in his Christmas message something about thank God for Trinidad and Tobago and what small mercies, don't ever believe him. He's an ingrate individual. He's a heartless individual. He's a wicked man. And of course, if you could say who dead and who live in a statement to where people are looking for leadership and looking for salubrious, what I consider to be not just ventilation, but alleviation of their problems. And then you bring on property tax, and you bring on, of course, more hurt and pain with respect, of course, to electricity. After telling us that you will never do that, why we must trust that son of a gun? No. Listen to him. Back in COVID, telling us how he was busy trying to be bright with foolishness. He was busy saving us. But his minister told us, don't wear masks, that they're number one in the world, but they end up with 5,000 deaths and a state of emergency. Listen to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke to you here about
state of emergency in COVID
through June and July, and it was all based on our understanding, appreciation, and confirmation of availability of vaccines. But there was a problem, and that problem was the communication system between.
He confessing that he killed them senior citizens, tell them to go out for vaccine, and there was no vaccines. Expose them, of course, to mass infection. Listen to him. And then, of course, later down the road, a state of emergency. That is the collapse we are talking about. That is the devastation we are talking about. That is the shambolism we are talking about. That is the evil. That is the macabre. That is, of course, the reprehensible and, of course, total and absolute reckless and brutal behavior that has been the Rowley administration under a criminal enterprise called the PNM.
Those who needed to be vaccinated and those who were in fact doing the vaccination. As head of the government, I take responsibility for how the government goes about its business. As head of the government, I take responsibility for how the government goes about its business. And this is part of the government's business, and I take responsibility for that. But Wednesday was a bad day. It was a bad day in that the government, through its agency, through its prime minister, its minister, its infrastructure, tried to do too much with too little. It was a bad idea by simply removing that stricture of a registration and replacing it with what one can call now a mass vaccination exercise. We are in no position to carry on mass vaccination, and therefore that experiment of trying to do too much with too little could only have failed, and it has failed.
And that confession should land Rowley before the International Criminal Court for geronticide, the killing of our senior citizens. That's what that should happen. Geronticide, the killing of our senior citizens.
And we acknowledge that. And I, as Prime Minister, unreservedly apologize to those who sought to work within that program and did in fact experience what was the bad day of Wednesday.
He called
we
a bad day.
had an apology from the minister responsible for the portfolio, and we have an apology, an unreserved apology from me, particularly to those elderly people who did in fact come out thinking that they could put themselves through the probably pain and certainly the inconvenience and disappointment of coming out and not being able to receive the vaccine. But
I want to tell you, senior citizens, I hope you're listening. Understand that it's this man who imposed and now playing that it is not so. $25,000 if you have in the bank, whether it's for your ultimate funeral, as the case may be, you don't want your family to be scrambling when that time comes, when that inevitable time comes. This man say no senior citizen qualifying 65 years, as is the case now, could have a public pension. He meets it so his own good. He getting his salary as pension. We're talking about $80-something thousand a month. He getting and $1 million back pay. But hear what he said then. You think he care about all you? And all you know for a fact that one of the reasons why you all went out there to get vaccinated, those of you who survived, all you're lucky. But he said, but it was as a consequence of he saying he will withdraw the pension that all of us getting. That was all over the place. All you know that. And that is why, of course, your children assisted you in getting to the vaccine stations, so-called, only to be told that there is no vaccine and exposed all you to the disease that created a demise of over 5,000 senior citizens in the main. That is geronticide, and worse yet. And I want, of course, families who had that experience, the younger ones who survived, to call and tell me, which one of you got state assistance for the funeral of these people who died as a consequence of Rowley calling them out for vaccine that never existed. Understand, this is not a joke matter. This is serious business. All of you in Laventille and Eastwater, Spain, and Betham and Sealat and Chumakak and Mova, and of course Mount Hope, and of course Labre and Point 14. Pinch yourself. The man call out everybody on the basis that your loved ones will lose their pension, as he threatened, of course, even public servants to get them off if they didn't vaccinate. That is what this man did to us. That is what this man did to you. And once he acknowledged, of course, that there is sufficient evidence, and he has confessed that there weren't no vaccine to give, but he called them out. He wouldn't give a cent, our money, to bury the dead. And at that time, of course, unscrupulous persons in that industry, in the funeral agency industry, started to raise their price because of the volume of demand. So it was about $17,000 to bury someone rather than the $7,000 before. All of that, he put you through. Quite a part, of course, as I said, from raising electricity, from imposing property tax, again in a slipshod manner, and you still taking him serious? You still believe that somehow he has some kind of credibility? The greatest threat to Trinidad and Tobago is Rowley and the PNM. Greatest threat. We are in a state of emergency, and yet still, after they call it, a man got shot in Paradise Heights, and another one, a lawyer now, died just before the turn of the year. Just before. Well, let us hear, of course, when he called the state of emergency, and we will end this because, of course, it's already 20 minutes past 10. I know that people are glued to their sets, but we have to come to an end.
Before, we were dealing only with numbers. But I think the population is at the stage now where the numbers are being seen to be numbers of people even known to you. Because some of the people, unfortunately, who have demised recently have been known to all of us, either in the work that they did, or the places they've been, or just who they are. So we're no longer dealing with numbers. We are now dealing with 21 deaths in one day, and if you bring that down to per hour, it's almost one person dying every hour. That is a frightening situation. And of course, if that is allowed to multiply, very soon we would be happy when it's only 21. Because it could go to a number where 21 is a great improvement.
He calls it. He tell the people to come out.
From midnight tonight,
listen,
Trinidad and Tobago will be under a state of emergency involving a curfew that from then onwards would be 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. From midnight tonight, Trinidad and Tobago will be under a state of emergency.
Just imagine that. And you have a second one now, a couple days ago. You see, this man is a total, what I consider be disgrace, incompetent, big talk, nothing behind it. The existential threat to this country is the PNM and Rowley. People, we have come to the end of tonight. Tomorrow, well, not tomorrow night, tomorrow is Friday. Of course, I'll take the Friday off just to relax, but of course, we'll be back on Saturday. And I'll play these, of course, and others to show that Rowley has broken another record. And that is, of course, two state of emergency in one term. Even though he criticized Kamala for the one that she instituted, hers, of course, reduced murders. His come at the end of a time when he will be no more, and then claiming that somehow he would, of course, reduce. I don't know how he reduces when he will be no more. I don't know how. But of course, as I said, the idea was not to reach 700, and certainly it would have if he didn't call a state of emergency, and even that itself did not stop, of course, this from happening. Let's take one more call before, of course, we go and make our departure. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Pleasant good night again, Mr. Lennox.
Yes, my friend.
I would not support nothing the opposition bring. I would isolate them until they come out of office. That's Dr. Rowley's words.
Yes, that's right.
That is his words. He said he would isolate the opposition until they come out of office.
Yeah. As the beginning of the end of the Kamala Prasad regime, all of that. Yeah.
You know, sometimes I want to know if this man have Alzheimer's or if he just naturally wicked.
The man is a natural con man. He's a criminal. He's he's a duplicitous individual. He's reckless. He's brutal. I mean, he is inhumane. All of the above.
And you could know he's not a leader, you know, because he get COVID 10 times and his wife never get once. So that shows plainly he's sleeping in separate rooms. So what he doing leading country? You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Lennox?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, my friend.
Where this man doing leading country and telling people about this, and he didn't do this, and who did this? This man, right now I program all my TVs, all is Dr. Rowley, skip it. I didn't want to see this man, boy.
Yeah, but that is what he has led to. That is what he has done. Yeah?
Imagine the head of national security or the Security Council. They call a state of emergency. As the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, you put failed Gerald Swine and you put the Gary Sobers where would never be. It's an insult to Gary Sobers.
Yes, man.
To chair a conference. And your brother is dead. You went on the golf course for 6 hours. Your brother dead, agree with it? Your brother dead, but you're going on a golf course for 6 hours. And after the golf course in Mandalina Grand, you went to bury your brother, as they say, and then you end up in a party. Well, I never see nobody grieve so
The
yet.
lies and all has become so rhetorical. It has become so what I consider to be annoying and sickening that you really doesn't want to hear because you expect that he's going to lie. How the hell you could a state of emergency and you not there? Well,
And
have
you
it
not
in
there as the
Tobago.
Prime Minister?
Have it in Tobago. That way you should have done. Have it in Tobago.
Have it in Tobago is?
Yeah. But no, can't face the public because he lied to himself so much and about his competence and ability to manage the affairs of the country that he has run out of lies now because everybody is seeing and therefore he can't take his own sin. You know, I think there is something in Revelation that talks about people when they do introspection and they watch themselves, they will ask the mountain to fall on them because they're so sinful. Well, that is Rowley.
Yeah, because I want once again, he didn't come with love. So he has no love in his heart.
That's
so
right.
He don't care what is his take place. He didn't come with love.
Man, stone-hearted man, me, he studied to
That
my
is
blasted
a
rocks.
stone-hearted man.
Yeah.
He going down in the Guinness Book of Record as the worst prime minister, not in Trinidad, in the Western Hemisphere.
And most hated. Yeah.
And I want the people to come out and show him, remember him. He always telling people, never forget the UNC for all the good that they do for Trinidad, but I want to tell the people, never forget Dr. Rowley for bringing Trinidad to its knees.
Yes,
So
all the
let's have a
bad
good
and
night.
evil that he has done. Yeah. All right, my friend. I'll look to wind up now. Thank you. Of course, it can't be done without, of course, the saying that this is the lawyer that was giving a sermon on the last day of the year 2024 and met his demise outside the church on Stanmore Avenue. As somebody said, rightfully, very good observation. Not too far from Balize
part of the
House.
service where we get an opportunity to give back. And
That's
so
the
that's
lawyer
the
that
deacons.
found himself at the wrong side of a gun.
We thank God for all of the testimonies.
Barrage of
this
bullets.
evening.
Having, of
And
course,
you see how
given a
powerfully the
sermon.
Lord
I
has been
think it's
working
the
in Sister
appropriate
Charlene's life. You know,
video
sometimes when you
to
think about how
close.
God has been good to you, it's difficult to keep back the emotions, you know. You know, and I really thank the Lord for those persons who spoke up this evening. Sister Monica, for example, is a person who I always look to as someone who is always giving hope. She's one of those mothers in Israel who the Bible talks about supposed to help guide those who are coming up. And I've always thanked God for Sister Monica because she has had such a profound impact, not only on the entire church, but on me. When I first came into this church, she was one of the first persons to welcome me. And I thank God for her. Brethren, as we look forward to 2025, remember how good God has been to you. We have had a very bloody...
Now people clap their hands. People felt so glad when Sniper paint portrait of Trinidad. But look around.
So yes, people, of course, we have come to the end of tonight's program. I trust that you enjoyed. And of course, the real version of Patriot of Trinidad, a portrait of Trinidad, of course, sung by the late Stalin. Listen to his version of it and you'll understand the real position of Trinidad and Tobago today. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless you. Don't forget tomorrow morning, of course, the ground report. We will be there, Andy, Michael, myself, and then, of course, on Saturday, we're back to, of course, the corridor transformation. Have a wonderful one. Bye-bye.
No money to continue their education. Our pitch lake is the greatest the world has seen. Yet roads here are the worst in the Caribbean. So don't bow down your head, brother, don't feel bad. I'm only painting and you portrait of Trinidad. Regardless of your color, your class or race, long want to go down here, you must find an equal place. We had our crime and our delinquent problem. But like any other country that we had then, those days when on we, people run them out, sniper, them where the hell that they're talking about. But nowadays when they talk, we can't see the light. Our delinquent and crime problem has gone sky high. Every day you pick up your newspaper, you could read the wholesome youth for marijuana. Shooting and thieving is really disgusting. That a shame to admit that this thing happened. With revolution and race talk, my country is filled. Today I live under a sedition bill. I'm only conscious of my place and not going mad and making over the portrait of Trinidad.
In the sanctuary with us today, as well as our listening friends, Spirit-filled New Year. God has been very good to us. This time, it's that part of the service where we get an opportunity to give back. And so I'd ask the deacons to... We thank God for all of the testimonies this evening. And you see how powerfully the Lord has been working in Sister Charlene's life. You know, sometimes when you think about how God has been good to you, it's difficult to keep back the emotions, you know. You know, and I really thank the Lord for those persons who spoke up this evening. Sister Monica, for example, is a person who I always look to as someone who is always giving hope. She's one of those mothers in Israel who the Bible talks about supposed to help guide those who are coming up. And I've always thanked God for Sister Monica because she has had such a profound impact, not only on the entire church, but on me. When I first came into this church, she was one of the first persons to welcome me. And I thank God for her. Brethren, as we look forward to 2025,